Someone in my Discord just casually mentioned that they're holding 30,000 XRP and that it could actually make them a millionaire. Now, I almost spit out my coffee. It sounded absurd until I did some digging and ran the numbers myself. So I set out on a little personal quest. I mean, what would it take for those 30,000 XRP to turn into $1 million? Well, it turns out that the answer led me down a rabbit hole into the future of the entire cryptocurrency market. And the wild part, by the end of this video, you might be just as surprised as I was. So if you even hold a single XRP or you're just fascinated by big, bold crypto predictions, trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this story. All right, let's start with the basics of this kind of thought experiment. It's all about market share and an absolutely gigantic number, $50 trillion. And yes, that's trillion with a T. So imagine a future where the entire global crypto market is worth $50 trillion. Why 50 trillion? Well, it's a nice, round, if not insane, number that many experts toss around for the coming decades. Now today, the whole cryptocurrency market is roughly around $3.3 trillion. So out of that, Bitcoin is hogging about 65% of the pie, something like $2.1 trillion in Bitcoin alone. Meanwhile, of course, XRP, the coin of the hour, has a market capitalization of around $130 billion, which comes out at roughly a 4% share of the crypto pie. Now, it might not sound like much, but a 4% slice of a multi-trillion-dollar pie is still pretty, filing if you ask me. Now, XRP's price today is just really a few bucks, around $3 per token, give or take a few cents here or there, with roughly 59 billion XRP coins in circulating supply. That gives us about 130 billion-ish kind of market cap. So far, so normal in the crypto land. But here is where things start to get interesting. Fast forward to that kind of imagine if scenario, a $50 trillion market or crypto market. Now, everything about crypto has exploded in value by then, and this is a big if. XRP can simply maintain its current market share, around 4% of that kind of ginormous $50 trillion pie. Well, let's do the math. 4% of $50 trillion is $2 trillion, meaning that XRP's market cap could theoretically be about $2 trillion in that scenario. So $2 trillion, even in an era where tech companies sometimes hit the trillions, saying a single crypto could be worth that much, in total just kind of blows my mind a little bit. And what would that mean for the price of each XRP coin? Well, divide that $2 trillion by the number of XRP coins out there, let's say 59 billion to keep things simple, you just get around $33 per XRP. And yeah, that was 33 bucks for a single XRP token. So let me put that into perspective then. At around about $33 a coin, we're talking roughly a tenfold increase, actually a little bit more than that, from XRP's current price. Or in percentages terms, over 1,000% gains from today's levels. Now, I don't know about you, but if one of my investments went up 1,000%, I'd be doing cartwheels. Remember my friend with 30,000 XRP? Well, at XRP's current price, that stash is worth, let's say around $66,000. Not bad, but it's not quit your job money. However, if each XRP were $33 and the same 30,000 tokens, they actually would be worth about $1 million. So let that sink in. A cool $1 million bucks. When I realized this, I had to double check my calculations, like did I move the decimal point right? Because that's the moment that I went from kind of scoffing at my buddy's confidence to raising an eyebrow and thinking, maybe there's a scenario where he's actually not totally crazy. Now, before we all start planning yacht purchases and naming stars after ourselves with that hypothetical XRP fortune, let's talk about the giant elephant in the room. Is a $50 trillion crypto market cap even realistic? And if so, how long might it take to get there? Let's time travel mentally for just a second then, right? The entire crypto market today is around $3 trillion and some change. Jumping to $50 trillion means roughly a 15x growth overall. That's kind of like taking a whole crypto space and multiplying it by 15. It's a lot, no doubt, but consider this. Back in the early days, crypto's total market cap was under $1 billion. We've seen exponential growth before, although the base was smaller back then. So to go 15x from where we are now would be, well, at least likely require a combination of different factors. Massive mainstream adoption, institutional money flooding on in, maybe even other people that you know owning some crypto in their retirement accounts. Right? Governments maybe even getting on board, right? As maybe using crypto as a safe haven, or major companies even tokenizing assets. In short, it's a whole lot of things that have to go right. But let's stay optimistic, right? That over, the next decade or two, those stars may align, right? So many crypto veterans and big thinkers are already making jaw-dropping predictions that line up with this kind of future. Let's take Bitcoin, right? The king of crypto, as a yardstick here, right? If the market's hitting $50 trillion, you can bet that Bitcoin would still have a huge chunk of that, likely still over 50 to 60% dominance if history is any guide. So at 60% of $50 trillion, Bitcoin alone would be a $30 trillion asset. Divide that by its hard cap of 21 million coins, and you're going to be looking at $1.4 million per Bitcoin. It's insane, sure. Is it impossible? Well, some very smart, or at least very bold people don't think it's impossible at all. So for instance, Charles Hoskinson, you might know him as the founder of Cardano. He's actually floated the idea that Bitcoin could hit $1 million by the end of this decade. We're talking 2030-ish, right? And he's not alone. Even Jack Dorsey, the guy who created Twitter and a big Bitcoin advocate, thinks that Bitcoin could go beyond $1 million by 2030. Now, there are some more kind of analytical predictions, like one group of analysts predicting Bitcoin over $1.5 million by 2035, that kind of helps put all of this into perspective. So if you believe any of this kind of remotely possible $50 trillion total crypto market caps kind of starts to sound less like a fairy tale and actually more like a high-end possibility. So by around the kind of early 2030s or sometime in the 2030s, Bitcoin is cracking 7 figures. So where does that then put XRP? Well, again, if XRP just keeps its relative position in the pack, which means it doesn't need to become number one or anything crazy, it just needs to stay up there in the top few, then, being 4% of a $50 trillion market means that juicy $33 price per XRP, maybe sometime beyond 2030. Now, here's the kicker. A lot of XRP holders that I know are not exactly the most patient bunch. No offense, guys. I feel your excitement. Right? Many of them, they aren't just sitting around content with maybe $33 in a decade. Right? If you poke around crypto Twitter or hang out in our free educational Discord, the link in the description, by the way, where we kind of debate all this stuff daily, you're going to actually see that some eye-popping predictions flying around for XRP that kind of make $33 just look like pocket change. Now, I'm talking $100, $500, even $1,000 per XRP in some sort of kind of the most optimistic corners of the web. In fact, some analysts, and I use that term loosely for a few of those folk, are calling for XRP to hit anywhere between $30 to $100 as early as this year. Yeah, you heard that right. Not 2030, not a decade from now, but this year. So for example, a prominent XRP community voice named Dustin Layton has been beating the drum for a $50 XRP by the end of the year. And he's not even the most bullish, right? There's another guy, 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘, who has thrown out $100 for XRP in the near term. I mean, those kind of predictions just give me deja vu to the craziest days of the 2017 crypto bull run. Now, if you were around back then, you might remember the meme of XRP to $589. It was a whole thing. Now, compared to that, $50 or $100 doesn't sound that far-fetched, right? But still, let's be real. It would be an absolutely massive leap from where we are today. Now, hearing all of these massive figures, you might be itching to FOMO in, or at least your curiosity is burning, right? Now, believe me, mine is too, but hold up. The point is, at least the point in this story is that where I kind of need to be responsible, at least a responsible adult for just a second. And I'm going to be super serious. I'll put my super serious voice on here for just a moment. And this one might just shock you, right? But I am not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice, right? Cryptocurrencies, they are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video today is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Phew, okay, so that's a disclaimer over, but I did mean every word of it, right? This is all speculation and educational guesswork. It's not a roadmap to guaranteed riches. So with that reality check in place, let's go and get back to the fun stuff, the what ifs, and my personal takeaways from all of this number crunching. First off, the idea of XRP hitting $33 because the whole crypto ocean rises is actually one of a more conservative moon scenarios that I've actually heard for XRP. It doesn't require XRP to magically become the world's only currency or anything crazy like that. It just needs to not lose its relevance while the entire crypto space grows like crazy. And honestly, it's almost a modest kind of proposal in context to the crypto hype. So let's think about it, right? A rising tide lifts all boats, right? If the crypto market as a whole 15x's and XRP is a decent sized boat in the harbor, it's going to rise with the tide. Even if it doesn't become the biggest boat, in this scenario, Bitcoin might still be the mega yacht grabbing most of the attention, with its price tag soaring past $1 million per coin, maybe. Now, Ethereum might be another giant vessel doing its thing with smart contracts, and XRP could still be chugging alongside, right, doing what it's meant to do. Fast transactions, cross-border stuff, being the banker's crypto darling, or whatever you have. Now, as long as XRP stays in the top tier, a 15x overall market growth could indeed mean roughly 15x for XRP. Now, could XRP grow even more than that? Sure, it's possible, right? If tomorrow a bunch of governments and banks announce, hey, we're officially adopting XRP for all international money transfers, you can bet that XRP's market share would shoot through the roof, and $33 might seem a bit like a pit stop on the way to even higher valuations. But that's a whole other layer of speculation. In our more straightforward model, XRP doesn't even have to conquer the world, it just has to hold its ground. Meanwhile, those folk predicting $50 or $100 in the near term, well, that's a more aggressive scenario. Now, for XRP to hit $100 without the entire market going to $50 trillion, well, XRP would presumably have to grab a much bigger piece of the pie on its own, or the pie temporarily inflates in a bubble just around XRP, right? That would mean that its dominance shoots up beyond 4%, perhaps into double-digit percentage-wise of the whole cryptocurrency market. Now, could that happen? Maybe, under certain conditions like a huge legal win, XRP holders know what I'm talking about there, or a tech breakthrough or some kind of mass adoption event specifically for XRP. But let's be honest, that's a tall order without the broader market also going bananas. Personally, I'm somewhere in between, cautious and optimistic, right? And wild imagination with all of this, right? On one hand, I know that expecting a straight line up in crypto is a recipe for heartbreak. And on the other hand, when I actually kind of sat down and ran those numbers, it kind of hit me that, wow, If the whole crypto space just keeps on growing, even at a reasonable pace, something like $33 XRP in a decade or so isn't actually that outrageous. It's still a long shot, sure. It kind of assumes crypto becomes a central part of global financial systems, but it's not as outlandish kind of as XRP will magically be $10,000 a coin just because we wish it to be so. Now, at the same time, I'm not going to ignore those really bullish voices. I mean, it's crypto after all. Crazy things do happen, right? If out of nowhere XRP did shoot to $50 per coin next year, I'd be shocked, yeah, but I wouldn't be like it's impossible, because we've seen coins do, these kind of things, perform these wild feats during these hype cycles. It's just that doing it from a base of over $100 billion market cap, which XRP is at currently, would take an ocean of new money coming on in. I mean, not 100 billion or so. I mean, 100 billion could actually move the market cap quite significantly, but we are talking billions of dollars of fresh capital having to flow into XRP to make these things a reality. It's a lot easier for a tiny coin to 10x than it is for something that's already in the top 5 to do a 10x that quickly. Oh, and remember my friend, the one with 30,000 XRP who kind of kickstarted this whole mental adventure? I asked him what he would do if XRP hit, let's say, $33. He grinned and said, probably finally take that trip to 𝗕𝗫𝗪𝗧 and maybe even buy a small island. Just, he's kidding, of course, right? I think he's kidding. I think he is kidding, right? As for me, of course, if XRP even kind of gets close to that, I would be thrilled, right? I'd maybe splurge on a celebratory sushi kind of dinner or something like that, but I'd also be thinking practically, like, how do I secure those gains? Speaking of which, if you're ever lucky enough to see those kind of returns, having a plan is going to be key. And I'd likely be using a trusted exchange like Kraken Pro when I'm taking my profits or managing my trades, because they've been pretty solid for me. But here is a shameless plug, right? I've got a Kraken Pro affiliate link that's down in, guess what? The description. And if you do use it, sign up and trade on there. It directly supports the channel here. There's no pressure, but it's there if you need a solid trading platform. And hey, it helps keep the content coming. Now, do I really think I or my friend will be retiring on a private island next year on the back of XRP? Probably not that soon. But beyond the jokes, of course, this exercise did change my perspective just a little bit. It made me zoom out and think about the bigger picture. Crypto is still relatively young as an industry. 10 years ago, the entire market was worth less than a single companies are today. 10 years from now, who knows, right? It could fizzle out. It could be absolutely huge, right? And if it ends up closer to the huge side, you're holding a piece of the one of the established players like XRP, well, you might find yourself in a pretty sweet position. Now, of course, even if you believe in a future where crypto is worth tens of trillions of dollars, not every coin today will be relevant by then, right? Market leaders can change. Remember when MySpace was king of social media platforms before Facebook came along, or Blockbuster before Netflix, and maybe BlackBerry before Apple's iPhone, right? In crypto, projects can seem untouchable and can actually fall behind, and new ones can rise. Now, I'm hopeful that XRP has the staying power. It has a strong community, a clear use case, and it's been battle tested, to say the least. I'm still here, or at least it's still here, and arguably stronger and surviving so much, right, that nothing is ever going to be guaranteed. Now, one more thing, and this is the practical side of me talking, right? The best strategy is not to pin all hopes on one magic number or one coin, right? I like to diversify and, importantly, to take profits on the way up. It's fun to imagine moonshot scenarios. Trust me, I indulge in them too. But it's also good to remember that you haven't really made anything until you actually realize those gains. So if XRP does start climbing like crazy, you can bet that I'm going to be securing a little bit along the way. And at the end of the day, this little journey of imagining XRP at $33 and a $50 trillion market cap, scenario was both sobering and exciting. It's sobering because it made me kind of recognize that big things like multi-trillion-dollar market booms take time, right? It might be waiting a decade or more to see that scenario play out. And if it does, and, exciting, I guess, is because it reminds me why I'm actually in this space in the first place. The sheer potential of it all, right? The potential for crypto to transform finance, to create new wealth, to upend old systems. It's all still on the table. And being here relatively early with even a small position kind of feels like having a golden ticket in a Willy Wonka factory sometimes. And so here is my plan: staying informed, staying realistic, and staying optimistic. Right? I'm going to keep following the developments here, right? Every little bit of adoption news, every new all-time high, every market shakeup, because it's all a part of the journey to wherever we're actually heading. Be that a $5 trillion market or a $50 trillion one, right? And of course, I'm definitely going to be keep chatting with the people in our community, right? Seriously, right? If you're not in the Discord, get in there, right? The link is in the description down below. It's completely free. It's educational, and you're going to find a bunch of fellow crypto enthusiasts who love to hash out ideas just like this. Sometimes we give each other a bit of reality check, and other times we hype each other up too. It's all a part of the fun. And it keeps us sane during these crypto or wild crypto roller coasters. So, did my buddy convince me that 30,000 XRP can make you a millionaire? Let's just say that he gave me a lot to think about, right? I wouldn't bank on exact numbers or timelines, but I also won't say that it's impossible, right? The crypto space has a funny way of making the impossible seem possible if you give it enough time. And in any case, it's got me kind of holding on to my XRP stack a little bit tighter, just in case. But don't forget, subscribe for more eye-opening crypto adventures, and I'm going to see you all in the next one.